will be serving us. Yes, today I'll be serving as the presiding. I'll be presiding over this meeting. Today is February the 20th, 2024, and the time is 1:08. Okay, to begin.
It's 10.
But
Oh, sorry. One wait. You're right. Yeah.
yes, it's currently 1:08, and now I would like to ask the staff to please call the roll. Present.
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 Present. Present. Present.
Present.
Present.
Present.
Thank you, Rebecca. We appreciate you. So now, to reconfirm, we have that on the record for the notes. Now we would like to address the commissioner comments. In order, you can always have a comment, present a comment in an orderly fashion when they would like to speak. And so, if you wish to make a comment during the meeting, you can please raise your hand and address when it's your time to speak. I would also like to note that we do have Spanish interpretation. We have Spanish interpretation online. Okay, I would like to also announce that we do have Spanish interpretation on the live recording. So next, we would like to move to the public comment agenda item number 2. And here, we would first like the members of the public, if we have any members of the public who have submitted a public comment speaker card, please address to the commission in person, and then we will take your comment. Any comments in the? I feel so awkward. Please forgive me, everyone. The public is behind us, but do we have any public comments? No. Okay. So now that we do not have any public comments, we can close that session, or are we gonna leave it open?
3 minutes.
We're gonna leave it open for 3 minutes. Okay. Thank you so much, attorney. So we'll leave the public comment open period for 3 minutes. In the meantime, we will still proceed to the next agenda item, which is agenda item number 3. We have Executive Director Martha Segura. She has a climate emergency mobilization um, commission report on heat. And so, this item that she will be presenting to us, it is open for discussion and action. So I would like to yield the floor to Executive Director Segura.
Great. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you again for showing up and making quorum. It's so important, especially in days like this when the rain can really cause challenges. You brave the rain. Appreciate that. But before we actually get started on my ED report, I wanted to have an opportunity for all of you to introduce yourselves. So if you can give your name and which community you are representing and your affiliation. I think that would be really helpful just to get a sense of who's in the room and introduce the newer commissioners to the existing commissioners. And why don't we get started with Commissioner Ramirez?
Of course. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is David. I'm representing the youth position, an undergraduate at UCLA studying geography and environmental studies. It's really nice to see you all today.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jocelyn Duarte, and I work in the community mostly with immigrant communities from Latin America. I am also a professor at East LA College in the Chicana Studies Department and at Cal State Northridge in the Central American Studies Department.
Good afternoon. My name is Julie Chardulo. I am one of the new commissioners here, so wonderful to see you all here today. I am a climate change professional. I was formerly with the mayor's office here, Mayor Eric Garcetti's office, and Mayor Karen Bass's office of sustainability, and now work with the organization C40, which is a nonprofit that works with global mayors to address the climate crisis. Thanks very much.
Hi everyone, good afternoon. My name is Crystal Romero. I am representing labor and I work as the press secretary for the Los Angeles County Federation of Labor, AFL-CIO. Nice to meet you all.
Good afternoon. I'm Commissioner Lori Jacobs. I represent the 7th Distinct Community. My background, I recently retired from the South Bay City's Council of Governments focused on homelessness and issues, specifically for seniors. And currently the homelessness liaison for the Northwest San Pedro Neighborhood Council and longtime Girl Scout leader empowering young women.
Great.
Good afternoon. My name's Sarah Nichols. I'm a Karen Bass appointee and a retired environmental attorney who worked on climate change and air quality issues during my profession.
Good afternoon. Mike Martinez, founder executive director of LA Compost Education.
Thank you, Commissioner. Vice President Ferguson.
Daniel Ferguson, and I'm serving here as a workforce policy expert, and I currently serve at Lacey as a senior director of workforce development.
Yes, good afternoon again. Jacqueline Badejo. I am the first geographically distinct representative or commissioner, and currently serving as the president of the commission. And for Watts Clean Air and Energy Committee, I'm a director and executive director of Watts Conda. We focus on agriculture, natural resources, air quality, and workforce in disadvantaged communities. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Monica Mejia, and I'm the 4th geographically distinct community representative. It's the Boyle Heights neighborhood, and I'm the president of a nonprofit. It's called the East LA Community Corporation, or ELAC, and it's located in the Boyle Heights, East LA area. We do affordable housing and financial services.
Fabulous. Thank you, everybody. And to continue on the vein of introductions, I wanted to introduce you to our staff and to the newest members of our staff. So maybe if you could put the slide in the next word. Great. What's not there yet? Oh, thank you. All right. So our newest staff, I'll have them stand up first. Gordon Haynes is our deputy heat officer. And we really welcome him. We stole him from LA Sanitation. He's got about 20 years of experience at the city. I don't know, Gordon, would you like to make any?
Thank you for the introduction. I'm glad to be here. Excited to be here.
Yeah, and he'll be leading the development of the Heat Action and Resilience Plan for the city of Los Angeles. The first one in the West Coast, and the first one, I believe, in the state too. So we're really, well, the state has one. So, all right, and Deborah Moray, she is our commission executive assistant. She just told me she's been with us already a month. So we welcome her, and she'll be supporting the work that we do for the commission, but also other really important administrative duties for the Climate Emergency Mobilization Office. And then I might have already introduced you to Amy Clark, but maybe she's here?
Yes.
Okay, there you go. Amy Clark is our Deputy of Operations. And like her name, the duty implies, she works with grants management, financial management, and budget metrics. So every year, we submit our budget to the city, and Amy helps make sure that all of our reporting and ducks are in a row. She keeps the trains moving. And you've probably already met Christine Lee and Rebecca Guerra Day, who are over here, who helped really set up the room today. And Rebecca is our engagement logistics coordinator, and Amy Clark is our climate policy analyst. So, Christine, sorry. Christine is our climate policy analyst. So great. So I just wanted everybody to get a sense of who was in the room, make sure you knew who we were, and I would enjoy a longer icebreaker, but let's get on with business. The next thing I kind of just wanted to review for those of you that weren't here last time is the distinction between the commission and the office, right? So the Climate Emergency Mobilization Commission is its own distinct body within the context of the city of Los Angeles, but it's not, if you look at an org chart, it's not under Public Works, right? It's not under the Board of Public Works either, and it's really not even dotted to CEMO at all. The expectation is that I'm wearing a couple of different hats. I wear the hat of executive director while I'm here, but I also wear the director hat as a director of CEMO, and whatever requests the commissioners want to make, they make through me, and then I relay them to the city council or to the mayor's office. And I'm just going to verify that that's correct with our city attorney. Yes. Okay, great. All right. Perfect. So I just kind of wanted to review that, and we can, individually discuss that more later if you have more questions about how that works out. The next thing I wanted to point out to you is this LA Administrative Code that basically just restates in more legal language the why and how the commission exists, and also what are our priority areas. So we're here to integrate environmental justice considerations into city programs, policies, and activities to improve and mitigate negative environmental and public health impacts in communities and stakeholders that are disproportionately burdened by environmental harms and risks, and also help with the decision-making, building capacity in disproportionately burdened communities, and promoting collaborative problem solving, strengthening partnerships between cities, communities, and organizations to address environmental justice and climate emergency issues, and also increasing and enhancing research and assessment approaches related to these issues. This is a very ambitious task for our office, but we've been up to the task, and with your support, I think we're going to make a lot of progress. And then in the next, I think I'm getting a little bit lost. Yeah, there you go. I think we already went to the introductions. There we go. We go into CEMO programs. Next slide. So this is just an overview of all of our updates, all of our programs and initiatives. So we're launching, have launched, and have begun to frame the Heat Action and Resilience Plan. We just went through one version of the first draft within the context of the contract that we have with Arup to complete the framing of the Heat Action Plan, hopefully by end of June. We will relaunch our Heat Relief for LA campaign this heat season. And so the materials that we shared with you are just some of the materials that we had last year. We have them in 8 different languages, so we didn't bring up all the languages because we'll be using them for our community outreach, but we may actually add more languages this year. So if there are any languages that, we'll share those languages with you later, but if there's languages that you believe are missing, we'd like to include them. The Climate Equity LA series is something that we've done every year, and for those of you who aren't familiar, we have selected workshop topics and titles with the advice and the design of the communities, the EJ communities. If you can go back for a second, Rebecca, that'd be great. And then this year, we're hoping to pivot to do more of a town hall style where we go out to different communities since the pandemic rules are over, and we're going to engage communities where they are in person. So we're in the process of designing that process through our community assembly, which is on March 14th. So we're going to have a community assembly at LA Trade Tech College on March 14th, where we're going to get further input on how we design those. I'm calling them town halls right now for the lack of a better term, but we want them to be participatory and engaging and relevant to those respective communities. And another thing we oversee at CEMO is lots of media and lots of panels and lots of communications with the broader, not just the broader LA area, but sometimes California, sometimes the nation, because we're one of three. We have one of three chief heat officers in the nation, and understandably, we're all still trying to figure out what is the difference between a heat officer, a resilience officer, a sustainability officer, and we want to help people understand the distinction. But just for your, information, the reason we have a chief heat officer in the city of Los Angeles is that extreme heat is our primary climate hazard. So it is one of many climate hazards that affects Los Angeles, but heat has caused the most death and injury over any other climate hazard. So LA City Council and the mayor made a decision to address that head on to reduce the vulnerabilities in our communities sooner rather than later, because these are preventable deaths and preventable injuries. And then we have prioritized these policy areas: heat policy mitigation and adaptation, and equity-focused climate action and adaptation. Of course, we're doing that in partnership with many city departments, but principally with the Department of City Planning and also the Emergency Management Department. Currently, it's not up there, but currently the Department of City Planning is leading on the climate vulnerability assessment, and that we really hope helps to inform the work that we may do in the future for climate action and adaptation. And then CEMO has a role in advising on climate action and adaptation throughout the city where it's relevant, but especially as it relates to extreme heat. And then below is just all the operational things that we're working on: grants exploration, mayor's projects that are relevant to the work that we do, development of resources or sharing of resources, and serving as a navigation for CBOs that are out there and need to know who they can talk to with regards to the work that we do. So for example, if a community wants more trees or bus shelter or shade structure, things that would help them reduce their risk, they could call CEMO and we can help them navigate their way through the best way to achieve that goal. And of course, we do, like every other office, staff training, development, and budget reporting. Next slide, please. This is basically just a description of what we hope the Heat Action and Resilience Plan will accomplish. So, and how we will do it. This is the phase 1, and the draft should be completed end of June. And the reason we wanted to have a multi-phased approach is because you really need to have buy-in from community and from city departments and from other stakeholders. And it's not realistic to expect that the final draft will be done this year without all of that relevant buy-in. But we do want to share a draft with the community, or phase 1 plan with the community and with city departments and with the commissioners before moving on to phase 2, which will include a lot more engagement and a lot more buy-in so that we can execute the priorities identified in that plan. So that's going to be, like I said before, it's also following the draft of the state. The state has an extreme heat action plan. And so a lot of the framing that we've used in there is following the state's framing. But we've added, obviously, things that are unique to the city of Los Angeles. And hopefully we can share that with you soon. So I think I already said we have interdepartmental convenings, community engagement. Some of that, you'll hear what we did, some of what we did last year through the UCLA heat report and the focus groups and the surveys. You'll have that presentation today. And I think that's, the last thing that I think is important that I've shared with some of you is that we're also guiding our work by the UCLA heat map, Kellen Virus screen, of course, so that we can ensure that we're not duplicating efforts and we're maximizing resources and we're placing them where there is the greatest burden and more harm and historical disinvestment. So the UCLA heat map actually identified where we had excess deaths and hospitalizations. And we think that that's a really important metric for measuring whether our investments are successful, our climate infrastructure investments throughout the city are successful. So it's a baseline that we hope to use in all of our work and share with the other city departments as well. Next, please. I think I just wanted to show you some of the work that we did for the heat relief campaign. Some of it you have in front of you. The one on the right, the banners, were created by the LA Regional Climate Collaborative, of which we were a part of, and those went in 2,400 buses. But CEMO also took the extra initiative and put them on bus benches. The one that says avoid heat stroke went on 300 bus shelters, and then the Heat Relief for LA logo is the one that you have in front of you as a sticker, but we place that in all of our heat campaign materials. And we've been asked by other cities throughout LA County for use of these materials, so maybe that's something that we can consider a little bit later. Next. And these are just some of the metrics from the Climate Equity LA series last year. Let's see, what can I point out here? We had about 400 participants total. I think we had about 897 registrants. And this year we're pivoting, like I said earlier, to in-person town halls for the CELA series. Next. Okay. These are the areas that we plan on, that we have been or will coordinate with the rest of the city departments. Heat mitigation response and adaptation planning, climate action and adaptation planning, equitable building decarbonization and thermal cooling for healthy homes, all thermal cooling strategies, amenities, and resources, including like nature-based solutions, and also the decarbonization of transportation systems, and that includes like bus shelters, and ED oversight. I'm not quite sure why I put ED oversight over the CEMC, but I guess that's just a role that helps navigate the policy recommendations that you all make to the City Council. Okay, next. I think I'll leave this for your reading pleasure later, because we've been over a couple of why the CEMC was created and what it entails. So next. Okay, here's the part I think where we will have discussion and action. This is the proposed calendar for the rest of the year. All right. Today we have obviously the UCLA extreme heat report being presented, and we have Hannah Abdelati and actually not Selena Gomez, right? Or is Selena here? Oh yeah. And we also have Austin, please. Okay, thank you. To present that to you today. But for April, June, what is that? August and October, we have these other proposed areas that both relate to climate justice and heat and extreme heat. So I guess I just wanted your opinion on the topic area, the flow, if you want to make any recommendations or additions of topics that could replace another topic. We're very much open to consideration of other priority topics that we should be considering here at the commission.
Would you recommend that commissioners email it in to you?
I don't think we can do that.
Or
I think
to
we
the
have
president
we have to make that
in the meeting.
We have to make that decision here. Oh, and we could table it if you want more time to consider it, right? But I think we have to if you have recommendations to make, we should make them here in public.
Have a question.
Yes.
Yeah, I was wondering like sort of what city budget is available to implement these programs, and maybe there might be a topic on the budget or how this stuff is going to be financed.
Okay. So that would be something the CAO could cover, right? Okay. Budget for climate investments. All right. I think that would be helpful. Yes.
Marta, do we have a list of the organizations in Southern California we've reached out to or plan to reach out to to prevent overlap of activities or to enhance the activities that we're planning on doing. I mean, what comes to mind is like tree people. And full disclosure, I'm on the board, but you're working with Luskin, and I'm just wondering if there are other organizations that you've approached to coordinate coordinate with.
Yeah, at least with higher profile organizations like Tree People and others, they already know how to navigate the city, and I think we've been working closely with them.
Right, but do we have a list of what those organizations are?
In one centralized place?
Yeah.
I don't.
I'd just be curious to know who or what organizations have been reached, and if are there suggestions with besides Tree People of how we can coordinate our activities.
So I hear you saying a couple of things. One is that centralizing a list of organizations that are working across the city to improve climate equity, and also you said trees. So
well, I just use that
as
an
an example. Okay.
Yeah.
And I think what I'm trying to suggest is that we prioritize areas for this commission to work on versus all the potential issues at the city, because I don't think that we'll have the capacity to address all of the issues.
Right. No, I fully understand that, which is part of why I asked if there were other, if you've reached out to other organizations that would, whose work would be related to what we're doing.
Okay. And invite them to speak.
I think that would be a good thing for us to do. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it would be nice to have some presentations from organizations and to let us know how they're doing with, like, Compost LA. Tree People. Yes.
Commissioner Jacobs, we're supposed to have the phase 1 draft for the heat action and resilience plan done by the end of June. We really only have like one more meeting before then. What is our role in helping put that draft or reviewing, or what's the action item for us to help with that? Or are we not? We're just reviewing the draft, or are we helping put it together?
April, you're right. Are you suggesting that should go on the schedule? Is that the relevance to this item?
Sort of. I'm just,
Okay.
It depends on what our role is. If we're just going to look at a draft and then approve it, when will we be doing that? You have it on the April 16th as a presentation. In the 2 months before then, do we have some materials you'd like us to review so we can come to that meeting very well prepared?
I think I'll have to get back to you on that, because we are getting really short on time, but that's why we are calling it phase 1, because it's a preliminary plan that will need a lot of input from y'all, the Board of Public Works, other departments. So what my goal really is to get something in writing that is worthy of your review, whether or not it's before or after that first phase, because I consider that first phase a draft in many respects, but I want it to be a draft that we can all improve upon for year 2.
Okay. Right. So there's nothing to do really to prepare before the April meeting. At the April meeting, we'll see how far along this is, and then we can discuss it then.
Yes, that's correct.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Another follow-up question then. This is Monica Mejia again. Does it make sense then for June 18, assuming the draft, I think you said it was June 1, I forget the exact date. Does it make sense for that day to be really focused on the draft plan?
Yeah, it does. It does make sense. Let me see. Great. I'm going to need some help from the city attorney on how to integrate all of this. Are we?
It can, I mean, again, as long as whatever
Mhm. 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 Okay, great. Mhm. Yeah, that's right. That's exactly what we did for the Equitable Building Decarb report. Some of you might remember. We presented the final draft of the report to the commission, and the commission added their own recommendations that we added kind of like an addendum to the Equitable Building Decarb report. So that went to council. It had the recommendations of the commission, but it also had the report. And I think that the other thing that I wanted to ask you about is in regards to the recommendations for other topics or changing the schedule around. I think what I was thinking of doing is revising this current calendar and then sending the revised calendar to the city council for approval, or do we have to send them our calendar and topics as well? Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Okay, perfect. So what I'll do is I'll revise the calendar with your comments from today, and then we'll send that back to you all as part of the minutes for the next meeting, and then we'll proceed with scheduling what we've agreed upon for today. Yes.
I wanted to add, I really appreciate a whole year's calendar. That's great.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
Commissioner Chardulo?
Thank you. So I just wanted to ask a clarifying question, if what I'm hearing is correct, and I'm just getting up to speed with the rules. So we, as a commission, would have the opportunity to have the presentation on the heat action plan when it becomes a final draft, instead of the sort of April meeting here that I see it's currently listed at. So that would be, we wouldn't have it then because that would be sort of interim. Is that what I'm hearing? And so we would have to wait until there's a final draft in order to comment on it?
Yeah. And we'll call it the HARP 1, the Heat Action Resilience Plan 1, and I'll put it on my calendar for then. But that's correct. It would be for June. HARP 1.0. That'll be kind of hard. Okay. Okay. Great, great. And I forgot to introduce you, Lindsay. Lindsay Graham? She's Zwicker. Hey, McGrath. Lindsay Zwicker is our city attorney. Um, great. Okay. Yes, Commissioner Ramirez.
I assume we may want to bring back the report to our constituencies and want to get like some feedback for people that we represent. I'm wondering if we could do a session afterwards, like a roundtable discussion, reactions, feedback that we heard from our constituencies that we may want to include into the report. Is that something that we're able to do?
Yes, absolutely. I wholeheartedly agree. And that's why we want to make sure that we make it in multiple phases, so community and everyone else has an opportunity to make some recommendations and changes.
One more question, please. What is the approximate target date for sending the City Council a final HARP Phase 1?
Oh, the final phase 1 or final phase 2?
I thought
This is phase 1. Phase 1.
Yeah.
If all goes well and we complete it by mid-June, then we should hopefully send it. But here's the thing: we're completing the document by mid-June. I'm not sure we'll have all the graphics ready by mid-June. But if we just want to review the document without the graphics, it's possible we could send it in before July 1st. But it really will be difficult since they go on recess, and it depends if we're actually completed with the document. And we'll keep all of you informed too, because these things aren't always as simple as they may seem, and it really depends on whether or not we're making progress with the scope and the draft with the consultant.
Mhm.
Right? Yes.
Commissioner
Jacobs. Yeah.
Commissioner Jacobs, further to that conversation or comment, what is the methodology for us to take this back to our constituents? Are we taking it to neighborhood councils, local meetings? Is there a plan there? I'm a little at a loss.
Well,
here.
we have a heat relief campaign, and I think that's what we wanted to present to you at a future time. And that heat relief campaign really goes from like mid-May to end of October. We are improving the distribution strategy of all of our materials, and that's another reason why we wanted town halls this year instead of virtual. And that's really the main impetus, is to be able to share these materials and this heat action plan once it's complete with the community. And we've up to now we've had the luxury of meeting virtually, but these in-person meetings are going to be really key. So we don't have specific dates for all of that because, like I said earlier, we're going to have the community assembly on March 14th, and we're going to hopefully agree on this process then, and we'll be able to finalize some dates, I hope in March.
Were we hoping to have several town halls to cover geographic areas, or
main geographic areas? We haven't figured out the geographic areas yet, but we will definitely be in the harbor, East LA, Central LA, and then some of the more vulnerable communities that might actually be in duplicative of those regions might need extra, let's call them townhouses for lack of a better term. So we'll have to figure that out too. But it's also based on the capacity of my team. Only myself and a couple of staff are really program staff. The rest are more like logistics and operations, but we'll figure it out.
okay?
We will make it work because we
Sounds
have a
good.
lot of resources at the city that are very interested in making this really reachable by communities. So
And could we partner with like our city council members too to get more outreach?
that's a wonderful idea. Yes.
Okay, great.
Yeah, because the district offices should be able to help us out. Yes.
Yes, I had a question in
Commissioner
regards
Duarte.
in regards to the heat relief campaign.
Mm-hmm.
You did mention that you had 11 languages.
Eight.
Eight. Do we have a list of those languages that it's available, and are any of those indigenous languages?
We will send you the list. And I don't think they're currently indigenous languages, but for our community assembly, we are working with Cielo.
Okay.
And Cielo is going to be translating some of the information for us.
Okay.
And we already had hoped to contract with them to translate it into the indigenous languages that they recommend.
Okay, and then I was thinking of just around language accessibility. When thinking about these town halls and where they're going to be located, making sure that the language access mirrors that community, the demographic of that community. I'm thinking about Central LA, how there might be multiple indigenous languages there, but making sure that we are, understanding whether they are, Quiche, if they're Mayan, Zapotec, whatever those indigenous languages might be. And I think Cielo is great to be able to partner with them to make sure that they're the experts on that.
Thank you for that recommendation, Commissioner Duarte. And I will have you know that our staff was trained last year by Cielo. We had a cultural competency and language training for our entire staff. Yes.
Commissioner Duarte, also want to mention in our presentation that's coming up after this, our UCLA students did have a focus group with Cielo and also went very much in depth with their indigenous interpreters and working with their team for that. So we're looking forward to having that reflected in our campaign this upcoming year.
Thank you so much.
Wonderful. All right. Well, I'll make maybe I should wait. Are there any other recommendations for the calendar at this time? These are all great recommendations. I really appreciate them. If not, I will go ahead and make the changes, and we will send them to you by way of the minutes for the next meeting, and we will proceed with scheduling. And we can make changes as we go along. It's not set in stone, but we wanted to have a plan in place so that the team could start organizing and inviting speakers. Thank you. Next. So I think I'm not going to go through any of this, but if you could just go through all the council file report backs, Rebecca, these are all just examples of council directives to CEMO along with other departments for us to provide reports on or work with other departments to ensure that the city has integrated either extreme heat or climate justice or equitable climate policy planning. And some of them are more directly related to our work and some of them are less directly related to our work. But I just wanted to give you an understanding of some of those topic areas and also so that you know how much work it is even for a small office to have to respond to these report backs from council. Next. And these are just examples of some of the mayor's projects that CEMO is proudly working on. We're on the Olympic Games cabinet to discuss and advise on heat mitigation strategies for the Summer Olympics. We just completed a project with LAUSD where staff served as, Rebecca Garade served as a judge for a challenge called Level Up LA, and students did some really fabulous Minecraft designed climate and extreme heat solutions. We're hoping to share those on our website, but actually that's another thing that we can have come to the commission. Have a couple of the students present their climate solutions to the commission. It would really benefit their perspective and make them realize that their work has an impact on city. So I think I see thumbs up, so yeah. I'll add it in there as well. Great. And then South Coast AQMD Community-Based Air Quality Monitoring Project. AQMD has been working on a grant with the City of Los Angeles, and they wanted the city to identify nonprofit organizations that could work with them on community-based air quality monitoring, and we're helping to identify those organizations and helping navigate that commitment that we've had, I think, for a couple of years. So those are just some examples of the great work we're doing with the mayor's office. And I think that ends it all, right? Is that it? Oh, operations. Maybe the rest of it is very self-explanatory, but I did want you to have an idea of the grants, some of the grants exploration that we're doing on behalf of the city and not just on behalf of CEMO, because most of the funds that are really important for the city are for infrastructure, climate infrastructure investments. For example, we applied to the state of California Strategic Growth Council for a $10 million grant that we'll hear about this April to improve libraries in some of the most vulnerable areas of Los Angeles, right? So that they could serve as cooling centers, resilience centers in the city of Los Angeles. And in fact, the next step is to ensure that everyone in Los Angeles knows that not just rec and park facilities, but libraries are also serving as cooling centers throughout the city of LA. And then as Commissioner Jacobs recommended earlier, to then identify nonprofit resilience centers across the city that can become part of this overall network. And we want to put those all in our Cool Spots LA app. So when folks need refuge from extreme heat, they can find it in their communities. So that's kind of the overarching goal there. And now that I've mentioned the Cool Spots LA app, I'd like you all to take a look at that because we also identify the city's hydration stations there. We'll identify the bus shelters and other shade structures. And I think it's a twofold purpose, right? We want people to have refuge from extreme heat, but we also want Angelenos to know what the city is doing in terms of investments for both climate mitigation and heat mitigation. And it's a really direct way that improves their livability, their walkability, their mobility, for them to know what the city of LA is investing in to help them out. And I'm sure you all heard in the news that we have like $80 million for bus shelters. So we're also trying to ensure that it's not only based on an equity strategy, but this heat risk map and ensuring that the most trafficked areas of LA with the greatest heat harm get the bus shelters first and foremost.
And I'll note here for the record that the Cool Spots LA app is at climate for number 4 LA, CLIMATE, the number 4 LA.org/cool, COOL, spots, SPOTS LA. Climate4LA.org/cool spots LA.
Oh, I'm sure we'll email that to you as well. Great. All right. I think that completes my report, and I will hand it back to the chair.
Yes, thank you so much, Executive Director Segura. That was a great report. I hope everyone is now clear on our roles as we move forward with this process for phase one. Rebecca, let's see. I would like to officially close out the public comment. It's still open. We had the 1 minute, up to 3 minutes for each agenda item, right? In total. And so I would like to close that out and officially move to agenda item number 4, which is the approval of minutes. Here we have the minutes from the October 31st, 2023 regular meeting that was submitted. And this particular item, I would like to request a motion and a second, and it's also up for discussion and questions. Yes,
Commissioner Jacobs, I motion to approve the minutes for the last meeting.
Commissioner Duarte, I second that motion.
thank you, Lori Jacobs, motion. And then we have Jocelyn Duarte for a second. And Rebecca, please, I would like to call for the roll. Thank you.
Thank you, President Badejo. We can actually signal
Or-
approval by a show of hands.
Yeah, let's do that one.
So for all those in favor of approving the minutes of the October 31st, 2023 special meeting, please raise your hand.
Approval by show of hands. Unanimous approval.
Should I, since I wasn't here and I was not a commissioner at that time, is that something that I could approve? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, sorry. So it appears that every commissioner has their hand raised. So unanimously, it is
Yes,
approved.
that's 10 votes in favor of approving the minutes. 5 commissioners are absent, 4 commission seats are vacant. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. So we will now close agenda item number 4 and proceed to agenda item number 5, which is a presentation on the CEMC Administrative Rules and Procedures by Executive Director Martha Segura. She's going to review the rules and procedures that were adopted by the Commission on October 31st, 2023.
One moment, please.
No problem.
Oh, this is it. Okay. My apologies. I've already reviewed that section in the very beginning, and it was basically when I stated that as an advisory commission with appointments from mayor and council, that implies that you should provide the directions to me as an executive director. But I think that's pretty clear now. So we can move on to the next section, Chair Badejo. Thank you so much for your patience.
Awesome.
And for the record, the administrative rules and procedures that were adopted at the October 31st meeting are available on the Commission's website and have been included in the materials that was the agenda today.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we will close out agenda item number 5 and proceed to agenda item number 6, which is a presentation of report on policy recommendations to address heat inequities. Now, Rebecca Guerrero-Day, Climate Emergency Mobilization Office, Department of Public Works, and Hannah Abdelati and Selena Melgoza, Master of Public Policy Program at UCLA Luskin School of Public Affairs, will provide a presentation on the report titled Turning Down the Heat, Addressing Heat Inequities of Frontline Communities in Los Angeles. And this item is also for discussion and action.
Can you guys hear me okay?
You got to get closer to the mic.
Let's bring it all the way up. Well, hello, everybody. Thank you for welcoming us to this meeting to share about our report, Turning Down the Heat, Addressing Inequities for Our Frontline Communities in LA. I'm Selena Mogoza, and this is my colleague, Hannah Abdabati. And we also have another colleague, Austin, here, who helped contribute to this report. So given we only have about 10 minutes to share today, this will be more of a crash course about our report, which is also available online on CEMO with the newsletter that was just sent out this month. So we hope that following this meeting, you're able to take a deeper dive into the report and what we're sharing today. So we can go to the next slide. So as we know, it's hot. As the century progresses, residents of LA can expect to endure more heat waves that are hotter, last longer as a result of climate change, and we don't necessarily need to look in the future to see how it's impacting Angelinos. We're already experiencing nearly 1,200 additional ER visits due to heat-related illnesses for each extreme heat day. And we also know that communities that are impacted by these health impacts is not necessarily equitable, which is what this project sought to explore. Next slide. So we partnered with CEMO to address the following policy question. How can CEMO best incorporate frontline community needs, perspectives, and preferences into equitable heat adaptation policy for LA? And this also included some additional questions such as collaborating with frontline communities, incorporating best practices from existing policy and research, addressing heat health inequities, centering community preferences in agency and policy making, and evaluating effectiveness of current outreach strategies. And so next slide goes into our methods. So we had a mixed methods approach ranging from qualitative analysis to quantitative analysis. This include interviews with subject matter experts, a document analysis of municipal climate plans, geospatial analysis, and for the purpose of this presentation, we'll focus on our community focus groups and our online survey, which Hannah will elaborate on now.
Thank you, Selena. So to go into our focus groups, to gather community perspectives, we conducted 7 focus groups in 2023. In total, we had 68 participants across all of the focus groups who were each compensated for their time. Additionally, to practice language justice, some of our focus groups were conducted in Spanish, as well as indigenous languages such as Quiche and Zapotec, to name a few, with the assistance of the CBO staff. Next slide. As you can see on this slide, most of our participants live in South LA, Westlake, the Valley, Pacoima. These are all areas that happen to be exposed the most to extreme heat, as our geospatial analysis showed in our report. Next slide. And for the focus groups, we developed 10 discussion questions, which focused on how participants experience heat, how it addresses their daily lives, and what they would like for the city of LA to do. We found that generally community-level interventions such as community gardens and parks, at-home interventions such as energy utility assistance, and outreach were the topics that were most discussed throughout our focus groups. We also distributed our online survey across LA. We asked 33 questions about people's perceptions of heat, access to resources, and their policy preferences. Over 60% of our respondents identified as frontline community members based on the parameters that we had set earlier in our geospatial analysis.
So jumping into the fun part, which is our findings. Our first finding highlights that frontline communities facing disparities want access to green space. They would like to see more trees, more parks, more community gardens throughout their neighborhoods. In the quote to the right, you can see a South LA resident describing their home as a place where trees literally disappear. In our survey, this was also amplified as 54% of the frontline survey respondents said that they want green space to be prioritized in heat adaptation plans. Our second finding shares that over 55% of our frontline survey respondents said that they would like to see at-home interventions, and this includes items like fan and AC distributions, access and outreach to weatherization assistance programs, as well as utility assistance. Our third finding states that 43% of frontline survey respondents mentioned that they would like to see resilience centers and cooling centers in their neighborhoods. In general, our focus group participants found value in resilience centers as places to cool down if they're unable to do so at home. However, they also share that the resources at these centers need to be made available to them, including like, like activities, resources. It needs to be more than just a space. It needs to be active. In addition, community members would also like to see resilience, other types of activities or resources provided to them, including green spaces, at-home interventions, as a priority. And this was captured in this quote here, basically saying a resident shared that they think that resilience centers are almost like a bandage because they need more resources. And going on to our fourth finding around lack of shade structures, 44% of frontline respondents wish to see increased shade structures. As pointed out in this quote, residents who are also public transit users in frontline areas face compounding health challenges when it's too hot, given there is no refuge at these bus stops. On to our last finding. Across all of our focus groups, many participants shared that the city has not provided them with any resources to combat extreme heat. In every focus groups, participants either laughed or were confused when asked what resources they currently use from the city are. And when resources are available to frontline communities, participants express that the typical languages and method of communication by the city are not accessible. And that is seen in our first quote, which participants share that this is their first time getting any resources or having conversations about this issue in Quiche. Furthermore, participants had not even viewed the city as a potential source of heat relief or assistance. As this participant shared in the lower quote, they never thought to ask for assistance but came out of this focus group realizing that they should. And also on this finding, we wanted to highlight that over 50% of our frontline respondents from our online survey reported that they have never heard of resources provided by the city. In contrast, 42 to 52 of non-frontline respondents had heard of these resources. So this data to us said that the public communications going on about resources that Angelinos can use to build adaptive capacity against extreme heat are not reaching frontline communities to the same degree as non-frontline communities. And so, next slide. To put all of this together into recommendations, we used the following criteria, which included community preferences, analyzing health outcomes, distributive equity, financial feasibility, and administrative feasibility. And you can see some of our guiding questions to get that narrowed down. And to further narrow that down, next slide, sorry. We created a criteria of prioritization and a matrix to help our team select policies that were desired by the community, are effective in improving equity and health outcomes, and could be implemented. And as you can see, none of the policy recommendations we put forward fall into the latter two quadrants. And I'll pass it back to Hannah.
Now, to quickly give a brief overview of our recommendations, our first recommendation is that CEMO should work with other relevant city agencies to expand green spaces in frontline communities. Since empty space is quite limited in LA and particularly in frontline communities, our research suggests that creating small pocket parks in vacant or unused lots, greening existing schoolyards, planting and maintaining drought-tolerant trees would be some of the best ways to accomplish this. Next, we recommend that efforts are made to increase awareness and access to utility-based assistance. Many of the community members that we spoke to were unaware of energy utility assistance programs or told us that they felt like it was inaccessible and too difficult to apply. As a result, we think that more targeted communications and assistance with applying for these programs would help qualifying members who felt that it wasn't accessible to them. And we also recommend that more campaigns are made to ensure grid resilience in frontline communities to prevent power outages during extreme heat events. Thirdly, in general, our results indicated that participants supported the ideas of resilience centers, but in order to really make them desirable to communities, as Selena was mentioning, there's a need to provide additional resources and also have trusted community leaders who are present and running these centers. And although this wasn't a top priority for communities, they still viewed the potential health benefits of resilience centers, and particularly ones targeted towards unhoused communities and their needs, which came up a lot in our focus groups. And our fourth recommendation, we found an emphasis by community members on bolstering shade structures and bus shelters across LA's most heat-prone areas. Community members mentioned that they either don't see any bus shelters in their neighborhood or they're just in very poor condition.
So to ensure that bus shelters are placed equitably, we recommend eliminating the ad-based revenue approach for determining where bus shelters will be placed. And we also recommend a community advisory board be created for the new contracted citywide bus shelter project to ensure that community perspectives are incorporated in decision making. And our last recommendation, our report found that improving the accessibility and reach of heat communications is both desired by frontline communities and would strongly improve health outcomes. It's important for the city to conduct their outreach on the ground and really take actions that meet communities where they're at, whether that's at their door, at their jobs, and in their communities. So we recommend more opportunities for community empowerment in local policymaking efforts, increasing the languages that are commonly spoke by frontline communities in future heat communications, and further collaboration with Indigenous nations and organizations on these communications. It's important to note that to be implemented equitably, these partnerships require equal power sharing in Indigenous heat adaptation policymaking. And that sums up very briefly our report. We also just wanted to quickly thank all the CBOs, community members who took their time to speak to us. And we also would like to thank, of course, the CEMO staff for all of the support that they gave us, as well as our research advisors who supported us throughout this process. So we'll take any questions if any of you have any, and thanks for listening.
Commissioner Jacobs. Okay, there's a lot to unpack here, so I probably could come up with 20 questions, but I'm all for more green space, but when it's 100 degrees outside, shade under a tree isn't going to really keep somebody safe. Did I miss it, or did you talk about hydration at all, about getting water to people when they're experiencing, did I miss that?
Great question. I can start us off. We actually did include that in our report. It didn't make the cut for this presentation, but it is in there. We talked to communities about having hydration stations, as well as having different water features across the city. So for instance, you know, those kind of fountains that children can play in during a hot day. Splash pads. Yeah, it was generally desired by community members. It was kind of in the mid-level tier of general priorities.
I don't really understand that, when lack of water is what's going to put people in the hospital, and they need to include water for the pets too. And just another question, I didn't hear anything about solar powered. You know, if we increase more air conditioning out there, you know, do we have the infrastructure? Can our grid handle that? I'd like to hear about more solar power providing cooling.
Oh, I was just wanted to share that I think the emphasis from the community members on having AC or more utility assistance was just for the immediate need for cooling. People need cooling now, like you said, people need water now, and so that distribution process is something that they wanted to see so that they can have immediate relief rather than waiting for programs that probably take much longer for them to experience cooling.
Thank you.
Also, so one thing to add to your previous question as well, although green spaces obviously aren't kind of a final solution, it actually, there is research that shows that standing for even 20 minutes under kind of a tree or shaded structure really does prevent potential heat stroke and heat related illness. Again, it's not kind of an end all be all solution, and we also do, we didn't mention this, but we know that all of the solutions that we presented are not an end all be all solution, but it's kind of a first step and kind of the first discussions that we were able to have with community members. So thanks for your comments.
Commissioner Ferguson, and I just want to say great job on the report and the findings and recommendations. Just for clarification, and forgive me, I gave the report a cursory look last night, very late last night, so I can't remember. But for recommendation number 2, for the investing in targeted grid resilience, does that include like providing a subsidy voucher of some sort for those AC units for those low income families?
Yes, that's a fantastic question. That was one of the elements in our recommendations. Yes, that was something that was mentioned quite frequently in our focus groups. Just more assistance in general to be able to afford cooling technology. So yes, that is included in the report.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, are there any more questions?
Yeah, I have a general question. Does the UCLA report feed into our heat action resiliency plan draft one? Do they connect in some way?
That's yeah, I'll turn that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do I have time for one more question?
Mhm.
Uh,
Yes.
so I was mostly curious about recommendation number 2 with the energy utility assistance programs. What are those?
We can pull that up right now. Um, so we have there are a couple state ones and a couple county ones, more local ones. For instance, there's the California Alternate Rates for Energy program by the Public Utilities Commission. They provide a subsidy for low-income households. There's also the California Low Income Weatherization Program, which also helps people weatherize their homes to be more resilient against weather events. Those are a couple examples. There are also some national programs from DOE, the Energy Efficiency Conservation Block Grant Program, again for grid resilience and weatherization. So there are actually quite a few resources out there, but what we found is that people don't know about them. A lot of community members who we spoke to really weren't aware that they existed, or it was just too complex for them to apply to.
Is it only available to single family dwelling, people who own their own real estate?
No, there are different grant programs that for single family, some for multifamily, apartment renters, homeowners. It depends on the program specifically, but
Great, thank you.
and we have more information on page 78 of the report.
78?
Yes.
Okay.
And as a follow-up for Vice President Mejia and commissioners, I would encourage you to take a look at the newly redesigned ledwp.com website. Many of those incentive programs have actually been put front and center on their homepage. So much of it is visible, and we'd be happy to share it with you. And to your first question, I'm going to very briefly speak about the some of the ways that these community-informed recommendations are going to shape some of our thinking around the Heat Action Resilience Plan. So I'd love to get a chance to briefly present on that if there aren't any further questions from the Commission.
Thank you. You covered my question.
I just want to add my thanks. I read the whole report, went on the attachment, and I'm very impressed.
Thank you.
Very impressed. Thank you.
Yes, I'm thankful for everyone because there's a lot of great work happening. It's coming to us in bits and pieces, and I can't wait to until we all see how they all connect together. A lot of questions that I heard from commissioners, it's just have me tapping into other work that I know that's currently happening. And so I hope that we get to a point where we can all see it together and be aware of what's going on. So thank you again for your presentation and due diligence. And now we will, yes. Oh, excuse me, Rebecca.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, commissioners, and good afternoon. Thank you to Hannah and Selena, Austin, Adan, and Dimitri. Their whole team were not able to be with us here today, but I had the wonderful pleasure of being able to help supervise their policy work this last spring as they coordinated these focus groups and supporting with their survey instruments and focus group questions. So I just wanted to briefly touch upon, as we're starting to shape and develop our thinking, as Executive Director Segura stated, about the Heat Action and Resilience Plan and the way that we're organizing these strategies and plans, and also being able to integrate and uplift the community-informed recommendations and findings so that we're ensuring, as the CMO is in office, is dedicated to integrating, incorporating, and uplifting the voices of frontline communities in the formation of equitable climate policy, that we're also putting that as a through line in much of our work in the Heat Action and Resilience Plan. So I just wanted to very briefly touch upon, as this is not yet a full report ready to share, but given the presentation that was there, these are the 5 HARP tracks that are in development. that we're starting to think about the way that we're organizing. And as Executive Director Segura stated earlier, these are in alignment with the state of California's Extreme Heat Action Plan tracks, but with an additional factor of developing a citywide governance strategy. Critically, in a city like Los Angeles, with various departments, bureaus, and agencies which help implement strategies and programs that can be aligned with heat or climate resilience, it's important for us as a city altogether to align those efforts and to align them under and work in tandem and in concert, as has already been mentioned. So the benefit of having this prior engagement around frontline communities and hearing directly from them is that we're able to weave in some of our key strategy recommendations. So if you'll see, for example, with Track A, we've already discussed some of our heat relief for LA campaign PSAs, posters, materials, social media communications, and in alignment with the directive and the ordinance that put forth a heat action plan, we are looking forward to highlighting some additional priority strategies for the city, expanding upon those communications, and bringing forth more access for members of the community, particularly folks, for example, who are in indigenous language communities for which these resources are not always in a written format, to be able to expand those communications, bring them to where folks are, and connect them with existing city resources. To speak to that recommendation from the focus group report, strengthening community service and response, also very much in alignment with that. Providing resilience and cooling centers, providing at-home interventions. So we're looking forward to even further directly addressing these with the key strategies and priorities that we outline in the forthcoming HARP. But we made sure that we started with these community-driven recommendations as a basis for which we would put forth these priorities as we develop this plan. And I encourage you also to, as you're learning more about this over the coming months, to consider these recommendations from the focus group within the context of what we're putting forth and recommending. I wanted to also speak to the increasing awareness and access to utility-based assistance, because I know there are many of the members of this commission who asked. Recently, the Climate Emergency Mobilization Office put forth a report in Council File 23-0453-S1, in which the City Council directed the office to report back on cooling, in-home, at-home cooling, infrastructure, apparatus, ways to maintain thermal comfort. And we put forth a very comprehensive set of recommendations as an office in that City Council report back, and we'll be happy to share it with you afterwards. And so just wanted to give you a very brief overview, and I'm happy to answer any preliminary questions. We'll have a lot more on this to come, but there are many ways in which the various policy recommendations put forth here do directly align with much of what has been addressed here in the focus group report. And thank you to all today. And thank you, Hannah and Selena, again.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Marta?
Yes, Commissioner Jacobs.
Commissioner Jacobs, yes. On what Rebecca was talking about, I think one of the biggest challenges, and you talk really fast, one of the biggest challenges, no, that's okay, is the early notification and how you get information to people. I watched as Mayor Bass activated the winter shelter and added more shelters, and I'm getting calls all the time. And even the service providers and some other people called me, and people missed out on shelters that were available during the first batch of the rains. So and we're even watching for this. So we know we have that problem.
Commissioner Jacobs, I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt you. Please let our public counsel say something.
Can I make comment? I see. Okay.
Right. I will comment on something that is happening already that I think addresses your concern. And that's the Heat Action Resilience Plan. The Heat Action Resilience Plan is a public awareness campaign to ensure that all Angelinos know that not just rec and park facilities and shelters, but also public libraries are accessible for cooling during heat season. And that is
Okay.
an existing
Um,
policy that I think is fair to share with you all, because it is hard to let everybody know last minute where to go. So that's why we want to make sure to convey with the campaign that these facilities are there for folks, especially during an extreme heat or extreme weather incident. But we can talk a lot more about that when, we present on the heat action resilience plan. But I do hear you, Commissioner Jacobs. Thank you so much.
yes, I'm so sorry about that. See, it gets very interesting, right?
I'm learning.
Right. Um, let's see, do we have any? Um, thank you for the presentations. I don't know if we had any questions relative to the other presentations, but relative to the last two, we know that we have to defer that to another time and another way when the final reports are presented. So I guess I will officially close out agenda item number 6. And now we will move to agenda item number 17, which is announcements. So do we have any commissioners or staff who have announcements at this time?
Commissioner Ferguson, just want to draw your attention toward our Building Energy Management Systems Fellowship Program that we're launching at Lacey. This is our second cohort, but first workforce training that we're launching in 2024. So if there's any participants that you all know that are interested, our application window will stay open until the 10th of March, and happy to provide you all with any links or information for the application. And if it's okay, Executive Director Segura, can I forward that to Simo
You can
to share?
forward it directly to me.
Okay,
Absolutely. Yeah.
fantastic. Thank you.
Perfect. I also wanted to re-announce that we're having the community assembly on March 14th. You'll probably be hearing a lot more about it as we get closer, but this is our save the date. And we hope to have up to 150 people present. And we have 15 people on the planning committee from different organizations across the city of Los Angeles. And it's going to be awesome. Thanks.
Thank you, Executive Director. Any other announcements?
Yeah,
Commissioner Mejia.
yes, thank you. I just want to let you guys know that ELAC, as I know, we own affordable housing apartment buildings, and we're working on the decarbonization of one of our buildings with 44 apartments. From what I know, I think we might be one of the first nonprofit owners to be doing this, and we're having a very hard time figuring it out. But we have a lot of support and help. We have incentives for about $1 million worth of work, which would accomplish the decarbonization. But we're struggling to find what's called construction financing that would come into play to get the work done before the incentives come in. So it's just something we're working on, and if it happens and it goes well, then it could be replicated in other locations.
Thank you for sharing. Any other announcements from commissioners or staff? Okay, and then as you see, any announcement that you have prior to the meeting, we could forward it to Executive Director Segura, and it can then even be presented in our
Sure.
packets and on in our other platforms of communication. So,
I think, yeah, prior to adjournment, we want to make sure that everybody knows that our next meeting is on April 16th, 2024 at 1 p.m., same room. So hopefully it won't be raining then, but I think with that.
awesome, because that was the last sentence I had before we adjourned. Thank you so much for the room change, and I thank you all for being here today, for all your contributions, and we will see you on April the 16th as we are officially adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you. Oh, thank
Yeah.
you.
And for those of you who don't know where we are, we're on the 9th floor. Okay, that's where you can find us when we're not here.
I don't.
What's the point of well,
Oh,
I
okay.
guess I'm a little confused. Felt kind of silly, but
That's
that's
all right.
okay.
all
It's
my
going.
big money fell out.
I don't want to hear. I want to hear what Marta has to say.
It's very nice meeting everybody.
It was such a pleasure to meet you. All right, take care. Hope you feel back to It was more a general comment on everything we're doing. Thank you. It's such a pleasure to have you. Oh, thank you. Just can't wait till we start having our aha. Yeah. So you just wanted to. Sorry about that. No, no, no. You don't need to apologize. Figure out a solution. Yeah, I'm kind of new, so I wasn't going to push the matter, but the fact she was new too. Oh, I was very confused. Yeah, I know. I think I found it. First meeting on Parliament.